Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I am the YouTube icon, Jazz Fitness. I'm the one with the bulging biceps, the perfect pecs, the washboard abs. Bow, worship the greatness of Jazz Fitness. You're in the fitness corner, and now we're about to review the movie Real Steel. Stick around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get into this, okay? So, Real Steel is a film starring Hugh Jackman as a troubling, this is set in the future apparently, so troubling, a former boxer turned robot manager boxer, I guess you'd say, in a world where rock'em sock'em robots take the place of humans boxing in a ring. I guess people got sick of watching humans do it and they wanted to see robots do it instead. So anyway, rock'em sock'em robots come to life, Real Steel. A lot of people don't give this movie, I feel, the time of day and the respect I think it deserves. And I'm going to tell you why it is my favorite movie of all time. Now, if you ever know me, anything about me, you'll know that I will tell you what my favorite film is of all time. I have two. The one is a movie I already reviewed called The Sixth Sense. That was my favorite film from 1999 all the way up until the time The Real Steel came out. So what's different? What's Real Steel? Why does this have my favorite movie of all time bracket, if you would? All right, came out in the late in the mid thousands, did Real Steel. Real Steel, like I said, stars Hugh Jackman as a troubled kind of deadbeat dad, if you would, who is a former boxer. He turns into this robot manager, if you want to call it that. In a world, like I said, they're rock'em sock'em robots, and they're fighting for money, and very similar aspects. Okay, but let's take away from all that. Let's look at the storyline and the human atmosphere of this. Hugh Jackman is a struggling kind of bachelor, if you would, but we find out he's not necessarily alone, as it is revealed that he has a long-lost son who he's been estranged from a number of years, played by Dakota Goyo, who I think is a great talent. He did an awesome job in this role, and I loved the chemistry between himself and Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman, who is like a huge mega action star kind of a thing. What I also liked is he took back a few steps to play more of a human, if you would. He played more of a kind of a down and out human, he's a struggling individual. He's not rich and famous in this role. He's not a tough guy necessarily. He's tough enough, okay? But he's kind of standoffish with his son. He doesn't want that closeness because he's not used to that. And he's used to kind of letting everyone down, letting his girlfriend of a long time, letting himself down. He hasn't been there for his son, who just got estranged from. Now, a lot of people might say, well, he sold his son to his aunt, and that is the case. He did, offered a role. He wanted some money to buy a robot, and he asked, the aunt the husband of the aunt, I should say, played by a very talented. Well, anyway, he's a well-known actor anyway, and he has got a great job in this role, in the sense that he wants to see his wife happy, and he's willing. They're rich beyond belief, and they want to provide for the nephew. What we don't know is necessarily why they weren't asked to begin with to be the aunt. Why they're hesitant to just give custody when he hasn't even been around the father. Now, that's Hugh Jackman's character. He comes in and he obviously doesn't want anything to do with his son. He likes being not being involved, wanted to sign away his custody. And of course, it goes on to really go on a discovery with each other through this robot thing. You could throw this robot thing in anything. This really is about a father and a son who have been estranged from each other, and how does that impact? What happens after a long time of not being a father? And what happens for a kid when you haven't had a father around for that long? What does that do for your psyche? What does that do? Well, the kid has a mouth on him like a sailor, which I think is great because, let's face it, not all kids are angels. And in all honesty, you want to put yourself in the perspective of the kid. This guy's not been around for a long time, in the number of years that this kid's been alive, the whole time he's been alive, actually. But yet this kid, and the father, this kid's taking his aggression out of the father who hasn't been around forever. And then when he finds out he does have a dad, he finds out that right away that his dad tries to sell him, finds out what a douchebag he really is. And Hugh Jackman, I believe, all honesty, the reason he didn't want to take ownership is because he didn't want to get close. He's not used to getting close to people because he ends up, letting them all down. He lets his girlfriend down. He lets himself down. He's not rich, like I said. He's kind of down and out. But then what these two discover is that they have a bond. You know what I mean? And they go on this adventure together to raise this robot together, train this robot. And the kid comes up with all these different aspects to train the robot. This is my robot. And Hugh Jackman helps him train the robot. And, it's just a great father-son movie. And all honesty, I'm a sucker for good family film. And I'm also a sucker for movies that has great music, great action, great continuity, great chemistry. This movie had all of those aspects. And that was something really, really shocking. The end of the movie, where they all fought, and not necessarily the happiest endings, but it is definitely a rewarding ending. And shocker, coming up, spoiler, I may have shed a tear in the theater at the end of Real Steel. Shh, don't tell my wife, because I don't cry at movies. Anyway, so again, this isn't a long review, but this is my review of Real Steel. It is my favorite movie of all time. It is by far one of the greatest things I've seen in a long time. Love Hugh Jackman, love Dakota Goyo, made me an instant fan of all of the above, and everyone else did a great job too. And congratulations. I would love to see a Real Steel 2. I'd like to see what happened to Max as he grew up. I'd like to see the relationship between him and Hugh Jackman, how that has changed and whatnot. But if we never get it, I was happy to have what we had. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed my review of The Real Steel.